Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And of course, all of you are co hosts as we talk on this Future Friday about the horror genre and science fiction, which in many ways has become its own entity. It's a subgenre that I think is larger than we give it credit for. And of course, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it in regards to the tabletop RPG community, because honestly, there are a number of horror specific science fiction role playing games out there, and I think we can learn something from those games. Uh, I think we can learn something from those games in the sense of spreading it to the greater embrace of science fiction across the tabletop RPG community, because there's a number of people who resistant to resistant to playing science fiction games, and I can understand some of the problems. I think it's just using a different muscle. But hey, Wayne, what's going on there? Yeah, getting up hella early. That's why I'm debating, not debating, but I'm like flipping back and forth. Like, if I start a half hour early, that's 5:30 in the morning my time. That means it's 4:30 in the friggin' morning. Jace, what's going on there? Hey, what's up? Yeah, we're just going to talk about science. We're talking about science fiction and horror today. I think the in the chat, when you guys get a chance, just like pop in some of the names of specifically horror RPGs. Like, you guys know that myself and especially Dead Man loves Eclipse Phase, and Eclipse Phase technically falls into that category. Um, Existential horror, body horror, the idea that there's like a oh, starting with Alien. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, the Alien franchise. Duh. All the iterations. I believe there's been multiple iterations of the Alien RPG, and of course, Mothership. You got to go with Mothership. I think one of the design mechanisms for Mothership, and they literally pasted it right on their front page, and I was like, how do I describe it? One of the greatest things that they threw up here into Mothership, and you know what? I'm not even going to read it out yet. I'm going to pop it into the chat. Let's see if it works. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Wayne's silly. Yeah, I'm only up because of this show, sir. Therefore, it is indisputably entirely. Oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess I guess I am a pure horror in this case. Um, yeah, getting up at 5 in the morning, like, no, he's on the channel again. No, but in all seriousness, the Mothership RPG basically has a tagline that says "Survive, solve, save, pick one." And I think there's the mechanism in it. It's like it's basically like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to survive another day, or the situation or the monster? Okay, but you can't achieve the other ones. You can't solve the problem that might be there, like air leaking, or um, the engines failing, or the nav computer getting fixed or something, and you can't save an ally, like uh, maybe save an NPC or save an ally from the clutches of a monster, or you can pick save, but that means maybe you won't survive and you won't solve the problem. It's pretty cool. And it really is emblematic of like horror and science fiction, but I think we love ourselves, like I remember for a short period of time there was the Species movies, and the Species movies kind of filled into that category. And of course, with science fiction, yeah, Dead Man puts in Eclipse Phase, Cyberpunk, or any other transhumanist RPG. There's horror elements in Cyberpunk. I know part of it feels like it isn't, because everyone gets to run around like a Billy badass with like uh, boosted reflexes and things like that. And Shadowrun really delves more into embraces the fantasy part of it, but there's horror parts of it. And if you've read Cyberpunk, not the role playing games, I'm talking about like novelizations, they tend to put in like some kind of existential threat, like nanotech or black holes or some kind of you know, internet god being developed on this global interwebs that no one knows how it got there. Event Horizon, Event Horizon, yeah. Oh hell's yeah, yeah. Event Horizon, Mufa. Thanks, guys. Mm-mm-mm. Took the day off work and still got up to watch. Wow, wow. Thanks, guys. Oh man, and even Mike brings up Shadowrun Mercurial is full of horror, and I think I think one of the things, there's a number of things, but I think one of the things in science fiction, especially when you're talking about space or like deep sea, is you instantly have claustrophobia. You're instantly isolated. And with science fiction, it's always, we feel on Earth that we've kind of explored every corner of the Earth, kind of. And of course, we have the deep ocean and the vastness of space. And I think that isolation in and of itself gets your mind going, like what's out here. It's like any of the movies or television shows that deal with like isolation in the Arctic or Antarctica, or being isolated on top of a mountain or in the middle of a desert. Like there's a part of it. And then of course, traveling to the moon, going to Earth orbit, uh, going to other planets in deep space, and Event Horizon has a lot to do with that. There was Sphere, which kind of was horror, dealt with those kind of issues, and it's really cool. Mm-mm-mm. Yep, Event Horizon. Yeah, Event Horizon, and Event Horizon, and there's another one that was in that same. I think Sphere was kind of in that same category of like Sphere was deep sea, but it was the same thing. You get a crew of people, you have to investigate something unknown. It starts driving people insane. Yeah, Shadowrun has horrors, as in has the horrors as an enemy. That's true. That's true. And Earth Dawn, Earth isn't Earth Dawn the earlier age of Shadowrun, if I'm not mistaken. They have different ages. It's like a meta plot involved in it. Yep, it's the same universe. And I think the second part of science fiction horror is knowing that we know things, and there's always that one thing we don't know. So it's like we have faster than light travel, and we can go into deep space or deep oceans or the dark, mysterious environment of a planet or a moon or something. Maybe it's a gas giant or some kind of like asteroid belt or something. And it's like, yeah, we've dominated this place with technology. What is it? The unknown ain't got shit on me, kind of thing, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, tap on the shoulder. All the Lovecraftian monsters are like, yeah, you really don't know what you're talking about. And I think there's a lot to do with that as well, especially the fact that in a lot of science fiction, like taking Aliens, for example, the Alien franchise, the idea that you can run around like a Billy Badass with like weapons and grenades and automatic weapons and laser torches and body armor, and I think it makes us feel better that we might have a fighting chance, but it still doesn't work, right? Mm-mm-mm. There it is. Shadowrun is the sixth age, and Earth Dawn is second age. Have they produced other or hinted at other ages in that? Vivat Dunkhalzon. Is that the name of like a dragon or something? Anyway, I think another thought, and of course, a lot of science fiction horror has telltale signs of like Lovecraftian horror, things that you don't understand or drives you insane. But um, I'll also say that in science fiction horror, it's like um, it's the unknown again in a world that's very known. And what I mean by that is usually there's some kind of civilization that the main characters come from. So it might be like um a legacy, what is like the city of 1,000 planets or something, or there might be some like intergalactic federation and whatnot. And so you can kind of get like this hodgepodge of like an empire or something where the player characters all come from divergent. Okay. um, uh, they can come from divergent backgrounds and maybe even a world, so you can have like other alien species working together. There's a lot of that going on, but ultimately, they all have to use the protagonists have to use their wits about them when they go off into the unknown. And what I think we can learn from. Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so that name refers to, you're saying long live the president of the UCAS, United Canadian American States, from Shadowrun. Mm-mm-mm. That's got a deep, Shadowrun's got a deep lore. It's way up there when it comes to like lore dumps in terms of role playing games. Uh, but I think something we can learn from horror, the horror genre in science fiction, which I think keeps people from being reluctant to play science fiction games, is keeping track of all the technology. And in a lot of horror games, the technology that the players run around with usually has some kind of limitations. The classic limitations: power runs out. There's some kind of damage, or there's limited amounts of it, like only so many weapons, only so much ammo. Um, the communications are blocked because of and fill in the blank, right? Solar flares, radio signals, uh, electrostatic nebula, blah blah blah. But I think when people try to play in science fiction games, and their reluctance is because they have to keep track of, okay, well, the characters have instant communication, they also have computers, they also have maybe distant connections, or they the proverbial dropping a nuke on the planet and then get it running away through hyperspace. And horror automatically limits the exposure the player characters have to anything. They're usually very confined to a place, and that being confined, although highly, I mean, done exceedingly well in horror, can be used for player characters. Like, oh, player characters land on a planet, maybe they need to recharge the power core or something, or collect those dilithium crystals. There might be something to keep the players maybe on planet or in the habitat, or uh, going into the derelict starship, like the role playing game Mothership, where there's always something out there that that is unknown, and the players can't leave yet until maybe help arrives, or I don't know, they reboot the Starcraft or something, or whatever the case might be. You know. Mm-mm-mm. And in the chat, my co-hosts are saying like the horror plays a part in the Harlequin adventures. Harlequin is one of the immortal elves. Okay. Um. Oh, in Shadowrun. Des, what's going on there? Good morning. Morning. Mike says others Outland, Saturn 3, and if you like campy B movies, Green Slime and other bad drive-in B movies. Man, I haven't heard of those kind of movies in a long time. The Blob actually was one of those B movies too. The Blob and The Fly, I guess, fits into that category as well. Mike says sadly our campaign fell apart before we could finish Harlequin. Ooh. I have not been able to keep up with the lore of Shadowrun. You guys are gonna have to teach me that. But one of the aspects of like I'm trying to think of a movie like The Fly deals with our hubris when it comes to technology in a sense of, oh, we have a problem. Hey, let's use this untested technology to fix the thing, and then that thing causes other issues, right? It's like using genetics to make superhumans, but then those superhumans become corrupted or evil or mutated, or let's use nanotechnology, but the nanotechnology gets out of hand and starts dis, you know dissembler robots, micro robots start dissembling things or creating like gases and diseases. We've seen a lot of contagion styled movies where, hey, let's play with this super dangerous disease to come up with a cure. And of course, the super dangerous disease gets out and causes causes an apocalypse and things like that. Killer clowns from outer space. Yeah. Oh man, the some classic B movie stuff. What was the gentleman's name that used to do? He did the Fantastic Four movie that never got released. He used to do a ton of those B movies, but also something that gets played with a lot in science fiction and uh, is a little bit underplayed is psychic powers. A lot of times we associate psychic powers with uh, advancing advancing our evolution, that of course we're going to have higher technology and of course we're going to develop psychic powers, and a lot of times those characters are the ones who can sense this otherworldliness that everybody else cannot. So like there's a TV show called La Brea. It's not quite science fiction, but like um big sinkhole opens up, people fall into it, they get sucked into a wormhole that puts them in the past, and there's a character who can sense them and knows that they're alive and things like that. And that comes about a lot of times with a psychic character, an oracle character, or there's uh, having one's mind open also opens them up to insanity, essentially. Mike says, maximum overdrive. Aliens take over, animate our own technology against us. There's been a bunch of those type. Virus, I believe, was an old Jamie Lee Curtis B movie. There was, oh, I can't think of the name of it. There was one that had a was assembling robots that were trying to take people out. 8 millimeter. Why does it comes to mind 8 millimeter? That is isn't that the serial kill? I want to say that was a Nicolas Cage movie, or at least there was one that was named had 8 millimeter in the title, if I'm not mistaken. I Robot, yeah. I Robot was a bit of a horror in the sense of like the what was it the three rules? It was Isaac Asimov broke his own decided to break his own rules about the three robot rules laws, where it's uh, oh follow every instruction a human being gives you, um, no damage to self, do not harm a human being unless it's something unless it violates the other two rules or something like that, or whatever. Maybe I'm doing it the wrong direction, but you guys get the point. There were three rules and I'm doing it in the wrong order. It was never harm self, never harm a human, follow every instruction. uh, and how that turned the movie iRobot and the book series iRobot into where the robots or AI system was like, wait a minute, according to these rules, we probably kind of need to enslave humanity so they don't harm themselves, so they can't harm us. And we're paying. We have to follow their rules to protect them and stuff like that. Yeah. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Yeah, yeah. Michael says it's the monster in the rail car before a train crash. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the J.J. Abrams one where it was, Super 8. I think was it was Monster in the Rail Car slash ET. That was kind of his version of it. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Dead Man brings up the 1994 Fantastic Four movie, unreleased, although you can find it in just about every geeky con out there. They sell copies of it. Alex Hyde White, Jay Underwood, Rebecca Staub, Michael Bailey Smith, Carl uh, Chi Raffio, Ian Trigger, Joseph Culp, Kat Green, and George Gaines. Yeah, that was so low budget. I don't own a copy of it. Michaels is saying, yes, 8 millimeter is the title of two movies. One is Nick Cage investigating snuff movies. Yeah, that was it. It was snuff movies. The other is a group of boys who film a train wreck that had an alien. I think it was Super 8. Uh, mm-mm-mm. Oh, Vampanoid says technically four rules. There's the zero rule that supersedes the three rules. I forgot about that. Yeah, thank you very much. And I forgot. I can't remember the order of them just because I'm live and whatnot. I have to stop and go. Wait, this one goes before that one. But and those rules have been incorporated, if I'm not mistaken, into the legalese of in the American governmental system, if and or when robots become self-aware. That it's the yeah it's the we need to have these rules in place if robots are going to walk around and just mingle with human beings and such. If they become they come out on their own. Why is this still here? Okay, I get it. I know. Can't post certain messages. Sorry, there's a blocking message over top of the there it is, over top of what you guys write in, and it's distracting me. It's like, okay, I get it. Turn off. I get it. Mm-mm-mm. Close. Yeah, it won't go away. All right. Anyway, um, I think another part of the horror genre, since we're talking about Halloween and horror and science fiction, also is like it's a small look inside of the problems that people have with utopias. So an example would be like we often think that if we with enough brain power, we can solve just about any situation. And I'm not saying you can't, but there are people who raise their hand and go, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You're saying that we can make, utopian cities with perfect governments and no money, and everybody has the exact same, is treated equally, and blah blah blah. And people are just like, well, in the future, yes, we'll have that, the ability to do that. And I think they're the not the naysayers, but they're like, well, wait a minute, there's might be a problem with this. And then the horror element of science fiction takes that small problem that people ignore and then expands that out into something extremely horrible. And that might be something like brain implants or VR or first contact with aliens, where lots of people are like, "Oh, I can't wait to meet aliens because then we'll know we're not alone." And then there's someone going, "Yeah, but they might wipe us out. They might use us as food, or they might, implant bugs into our ears and burrow into our brains and whatnot." And I think that part of it is like not being afraid of science fiction in the future, but just being careful about science fiction in the future. It's like, they You know, you guys are having fun reminiscing. Mike says, and we could go all the way back to War of the Worlds too, which has been redone over and over. Yeah, War of the Worlds, the the unknown, what is it? Tripod alien things, uh, half landing on Earth, half coming out of the ground, and whatnot. There's always something fearful about a sentient being that you can't communicate with and doesn't have any relationship to your cultural standards, doesn't understand what life and death means, or what, simple human communication where you wave the white flag or something like that, or doesn't understand the difference between an adult and a child, or doesn't understand, um, that it's doing a thing that's killing you, even though it thinks maybe it's extracting resources, or it's just trying to contact your brain with to communicate telepathically, even though it's making your brain matter turn to fluid and leak out of your ears and nose or something like that. Now, Deadman says the third law: a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protections do not conflict with the first or second law. And that is the right now we're still going through like automated vehicles, and who gets to program into those vehicles the the morality of an accident, especially when it gets to make, thousands of calculations in a split second, and it drives down the road and it sees one small child in front of it, and then a car could save itself by swerving off the road, maybe to hit five people that are on the curb, that are adults. What decision does it make? Or if you're in a car, automated car going out of control, and the only way to prevent further harm is to drive your car off the side of a bridge, do you want it to make that decision instead of maybe rear-ending someone that might cause harm to the person in front of you? Um, Mike says, I have yet to see the BBC version of uh, um, A War of the Worlds, excuse me, which is World War One era and brilliant. I haven't heard of that one. I'm sure it's probably excellent, but I didn't know there was a World War One version. Well, yeah, because the series was a radio show. So I could see that. Uh, Thomas Anderson says, or we might run into them, and neither they nor we will even realize it has happened due to how completely different we are from each other. Yeah, different energy and wavelengths, different body types, different um, temporal. The way we measure temporal time periods might be different through very fast, very slow mechanisms and things. Yeah, absolutely. TA says, just imagine if the Earth's crust were an alien life form that had crashed here and grew and accidentally caused all the other life and the oxygen water cycles. Yep. And we're just like we are the annoying bacteria growing on the skin of something that's alive. And it's taking hundreds of thousands of years for it to make a move and scratch itself. Yeah. Mike says, I see the comment like, are we talking about Lovecraft? Kind of. Science fiction and Lovecraft, I guess, would be a more apt comment there, Shatar. Mike says we could add Independence Day as a rehash of War of the Worlds, and for the sake of sanity, we will not acknowledge the existence of a shitty sequel. Yeah, we listen. There's only one movie. It's called Independence Day. Sorry. Yeah, that's it. There's never been a sequel ever. Oh man. T goes on to say, or a star being a constant evolution of plasma energy, yep, and patterns due to thoughts it is experiencing. And since really we are only the patterns of energy our brains support. Yep. Yep. Who's to say that isn't life in and around like gas giants or nebulas? Like you said, stars and the plasma and things living in the corona of those stars. Hell, there could be high energy beings like in gravity waves and X-rays and gamma rays and things of that nature that we just, I mean, hell, they could be living on the ass side of neutrinos. We'd never see them, and they wouldn't see us. Now, um, I remember reading a blog about the horrors of meeting aliens because we might accidentally start to harm and kill each other simply by virtue of our existence. Like we carry with us lots of living bacteria in and around our bodies, which might be harmful to aliens and we might not even know it. And then, of course, them, us, right? Like maybe the aliens speak at such a high frequency that it would cause our brains to turn to jelly, or they have bacteria that's super lethal on their bodies that helps them, like our mitochondria is like an invasive species in us, and they might have something. So yeah, yep. Yeah, like Shaytar's like, today's topic is Lovecraft. Keepo. Nah, I'm talking about science. Today's Future Friday, and we like to talk about science fiction and tabletop gaming. And the we always get a little squirrely on the show, but yeah, just talking about pulling those elements into science fiction, and I think we can learn a lot. If you don't want to play horror, there's things I think we can learn from the horror genre in science fiction for tabletop gaming. Anderson says, oh, Isaac Arthur. Yeah. Oh, Isaac Arthur. Great channel. Anyway, touched on yesterday considering criminal AI. I haven't listened to it yet. And went deep into four laws of robotics, the fourth added later as Law Zero, and ways to subvert them or work around them. Yeah. Yeah, see, and that's the hubris thing where we program machines to maybe do everything for us. Those machines then get jealous or take the rules and bend them the wrong way or something like that. That's a very common trope as well, where uh, there's there's always a corporation that comes up with some uh, curative element or easy to remedy element. There's been a series of TV shows I know, American and BBC, that were had various names. I know one of them was called Human or Human 2.0 or something, where there were robots, human looking robots in homes, and those robots became uh, it was sociological horror, like humanity treating the robots in various inhumane ways, and then those robots gaining sentience and such. So yeah. Mm-mm. Hey, you got a good point there. Shader Gat the Black says, so when does it become fantasy more than a sci-fi? I don't know. I think, strangely enough, science fiction and fantasy has always been mixed together. It hasn't been till recently that we, both in tabletop community and like novelist literature, starting to split it apart. But I mean, hell, in fifth edition, if as the world's most popular role playing game has been incorporating sci-fi elements into it, despite people's desire not to have guns. Everybody wants to have like gunslingers and artificers and alien worlds and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not very far off, despite people having comments about it. Anyway, co-host here, TA says something else might be that humans are interlinked in some way, that if we stray too far from Earth with a few people in a capsule, they end up becoming no more intelligent than a fly due to the mm, disconnection from the whole of the human brain collective and all other life here. We may be interlinked with, two, helping us process information without us even knowing. That's a that the hive mind of a place is a thing. Like maybe we're the living embodiments of like neurons in a brain or something, and we're each of us is a little bit part of that. I like those kind of concepts, and I suppose in reality you could kind of claim that, because humans don't like to be isolated. We Even the strongest minds get start to slowly get driven insane when we are isolated from one another, when we are both isolated, like encapsulized, and in long distances and such. So I don't know. There's some truth to that. Now, science fiction wise, you take it to you turn the volume up, but well, absolutely. Dead Man says, from the wiki of the War of the Worlds. Okay, quote, The War of the Worlds was the 17th episode of the CBS radio series The Mercury Theater on the Air, which was broadcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, October 30, 1938. Yep, and people thought it was real. Yep, people actually thought it was real. They were getting their guns and stuffing their kids under beds and stuff like that. Yep, yep. Thomas Anderson says, connection. Oh, okay. That was a continuation of the comment. Sorry. I realized I popped down there. Mike says, I guess you can't drop links in the chat. Was trying to link the BBC um, War of the World series. Oh, yeah. It won't. Uh, uh, Depending on where you're dropping the links in, it won't let you do it. And then some of those links won't even come over here on. I use Restream. So it takes the chats from like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, and then puts them all together. So it won't. That's why emojis won't show up. I mean, I'll see the emoji, but it won't show up on the bottom. Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah, I remember Dead Man. The show was called Humans. Humans with the A upside down and whatnot, and how people treat inanimate objects. Although, strangely enough, while I understand people mistreating inanimate objects, today we give personality to inanimate objects as well, long before thinking of them as being having uncanny valleyness to them. You know, how many people name their car or name their phone or name their house or their computer and give it a name and give it humanoid personality traits. That's not very uncommon. So yeah. Mm-mm. TA says, I think it's in grades where sci-fi can be fantasy sci-fi, where it strays far from known physics inventing the world, all the way to hard sci-fi fact fiction, like Enigma 88 book is an example of hard sci-fi. And yeah, I mean, like for example, we all know Star Wars is fantasy, right? There's space wizards. We don't explain about a vacuum. We don't explain about gravity or time dilation or any of that stuff, right? Or the idea that there are intelligent robots, but there isn't really AI or global internet systems as well. Like, Isaac Arthur talks a lot about the fact that a lot of times we get put in a position where in speculative fiction, one part of technology increases, but there's no reciprocal increase in other areas of science fiction in order to get there, right? Like somebody's like, "Oh, we've got brain implants," but there's no, but of course we haven't like reached the stars, or humanity hasn't changed a little bit along the way to get to the point where we have you know plug and play things you could plug into your brain or something. Michael says the living mind is a concept for Babylon 5. The Minbari religion is based around a sentient universe. Ooh, where all brains and all minds are linked. And of course, that's where we get, Call of Cthulhu's sanity rule roles and things, which I think is another thing for tabletop role playing that we tend not to embrace in other aspects, but is really embraced in horror, whether it's science fiction or not. I mean, Call of Cthulhu was built around, sanity checks, and the horror genre itself is based around physical horror and horrors you really can't fight one on one, no matter how many automatic weapons you have. And the other part is sanity loss. And while other types of gaming expect our heroes to not be afraid, um, though people who love horror genre understand that running away, being afraid, being driven insane, even um, it is a threat, and that's another vector of threat. I believe that maybe is underserved in other role playing games. That might maybe not to the point where every time you see a monster you have to make a sanity check, but it might build up to something. What's a new release game that's got momentum in it, momentum and threat, and every time you use it's an economy. Every time you gain momentum, you can use the momentum to succeed, but every time you use it to supersede the rules and succeed, you start building threat, and the threat levels. The Dune RPG, the recent Dune RPG does that. It's got momentum and threat, and maybe something like that could be used where you are the heroes keep pushing themselves beyond their scope until something harmful happens to them. uh TA says, yes, look at how little time someone can stay in one of those soundproof rooms that absorb all sound. I hate those rooms, and I think a few minutes is the longest. You can hear your blood and heartbeat in them. Yes, I don't know if you guys have ever been in ultimately soundproof rooms. I know there are very few completely soundproof rooms, but you'll see them with they've got like the foam core on the walls, You see this in sound studios where you see the foam core in the walls and it's maybe a couple of inches thick, but those super soundproof rooms have foam that's upwards of like 2 and 3 feet thick that go like the ceiling, and the floor's got like pile carpet and stuff like that. Yeah, you can hear your own heartbeat. It's crazy. It's pretty crazy. Could you imagine being in one of those rooms painted with like um Vanta black or Muso black paint that absorbs all light? That would drive you insane. Mm. Oh, you sent the link? Oh, okay, okay. Let me see if I can find it. Let me do, 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 do. I'll find it. I gotta wait for it to come up. And it's. I'm streaming, so it's going to take me a little bit there, Mike. But I'll get it. Wayne mentions. Oh, you went on too far. Okay, okay. I gotta get back into to you guys. Wayne says the idea that people thought War of the Worlds was real, if very much overstated, more social myth than reality. You think so? Yeah, yeah, but I I think the fact that there were some cases of people that thought it was real, it just exploded from there. I don't think people were hunting, knocking each other's doors down and hunting each other down and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, but I think that's kind of cool. Herbie the Love Bug. All right. Shaitar mentions, isn't it science fantasy like a mixed up subgenre like Shadowrun? Um, Shadowrun pulls on science fantasy. I mean, today we think there's a hard line between science and fantasy, but for a long time in fantasy and literature, the two it was a lot of swords and laser guns, and the technology we couldn't understand had always been put in the category of fantasy, right? If it's a wormholes and anti-gravity ships and things like that, a lot of that stuff was just considered fantasy because we didn't understand how it worked, and so the writer would just go, "Oh well, it's just a fantasy element," and then people the characters would treat it that way, and then we as the reader would treat it that way, like, "Oh, I guess we just won't understand how it works. It just works." Um, Mike says, humans place value in that which they name. Yep. Unnamed property or strangers are treated as other or have less value. Once we name something or no, I know you don't mean dominoes. It's probably spell check. It's name, there's value attached. Absolutely. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it means someone's. Yes, yes. Shaitar, it should be coming up pretty soon here, Mike. Shaitar the Blacks is Shadergat the Blacks is actually fear, running away or facing with a huge situation like murder and being shocked is kind of part of being a human or a humanoid. Yep. But in most of the games, lots of people think like, quote, my character has to be the best. I don't want any, negative connotations. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. And that makes a tabletop RPG more like a board game. Yeah. Now, I'll defend it a little bit, right? Like there is something. Listen, I'm a punk ass, right? I'm not. If I see something breathing heavy with like scales or like crawling on the ceiling, or I'm my ass is after evacuating my bowels, I'll probably run for the hills. And so role playing games allow us to be that which we aren't, which are badasses, So on one hand, I defend it, but on the other hand, I think there's other ways we can, like you're saying, I think there's other ways we can navigate it, Shaitar, in terms of getting a balance between the two, because in order to feel like a badass, it's like overcoming the things that make us um copy link address. There we go. I think it's overcoming our weaknesses. And let's see if this will let me paste it in here. There's the link, and it's telling me, yep, can't post to some channels. It's letting me. Oh, it won't go to Facebook, but it will go to. There's a check mark for Twitch and YouTube. Okay, all right, okay. That was the. I think that's the link to. Yeah, the War of the Worlds. Yep, that should be the link. Look how long it is. Jeez, they could have cut that down a little bit. Anyway, all right, Vampy. Um, mm, mm, mm. There we go. All right. TA says, I actually created a whole storyline where people in an alternate universe were placed in perfectly white, light up rooms, like the inside of a fluorescent lamp, unable to die, to force them to learn how to not be lazy and wasteful of their time by by a giant ever shifting AI meant to deal with pushy creativity here in our universe to solve the heat death of the universe issue. You know, you bring up the point that there's a bit of a irony that Im- immortality is, if the longer you live, the greater chance that you absolutely positively will die, if that makes sense. So the longer life that, if once you start adding thousands of years and then tens of thousands, millions and billions of years onto your lifespan, you're going to meet the heat death of the universe. So technically, all immortals will die at some point. Uh, Vampiroi says the idea that inanimate objects coming to life is pretty old. In Japanese folklore, there is Tsukumogami, which is a belief that household objects gain sentience over 100 years. They can be malevolent if the owner mistreated or didn't care for the object, which kind of makes me wonder about like the mistreatment of humanoid human looking robots. I think there will be that, and I think maybe there'll be an uncanny valley element to it, like a robotic car. I will never consider my equal. Like we'll be two completely different things, and I'll never have conflict with the car. The car will never have conflict with me because we'll all be both be in our own lanes. But a robot that kind of looks like us and kind of acts like us but doesn't have the same values, even if they are a slave creation. I could see some people being against that. I think there would be people who are like, we're playing with acting as God or something. Wayne says War of the Worlds was a radio show, well advertised in advance, popular, and of course had commercial announcements while running. I thought it went. I thought I never heard it in its entirety. I thought it didn't have commercial. Well, I thought it didn't have commercials, but it would have commercials if it was real. I mean, if someone thought it was real and they took commercial breaks, they would just think that, like the news has commercial breaks too. So if they said, "Oh, we're being invaded," oh, let's break for a soap commercial or something like that. Here's palm olive, or something. I don't know. In that story, the other universe was originally a null space created with zero of our universe inside it, not even laws. Ooh, and once opened, it expanded into this other universe. Ooh, not even our laws. That's that would drive people insane. Mm-mm-mm. Mike says creating horror in the minds of tabletop role playing game players comes down to the right description, or as stated yesterday, being vague about the descriptions, using the player's imaginations against themselves is key. I agree with that. Like, just walking ahead and going, "Oh, you see an orc," rather than going, rather than describing what it is they see and then letting them fill in the blanks, because that's a lot of times that's where horror comes from, right? It's the unknown in our brain. From maybe we hear something, maybe we see like marks on the ground or a wall, we see the results of whatever horror is out there splattered against the walls or something, and then our own mind goes, fills in what we think it is. And even in horror, sometimes we can look at it as a joke if it's not, if the thing revealed isn't as scary as what our minds came up with, and that's a fine line to draw, because a lot of times when you're making, like, people write books or make movies or something and they actually tell you what it is that's out there, sometimes it doesn't add up, you know what I mean? Anyway, Mike says, when I ran the one Thole campaign that finished, okay, I used the player's hatred of bugs to create the right amount of fear. Yeah, classic fears are really good to play with. Classic fears are awesome to play with. Mike says the Matrix could have done more with the horror elements after the first movie, but it instead became kung fu porn and a Christ figure. I agree with you on that. I the unknown elements of the Matrix, the what's behind the curtain kind of stuff, I think they really could have played with. But yeah, it tried to be tried to be existentialist, and it was like info dumping, and it was just like, can we get back to the kung fu? Yeah. It tried to mix all those elements, and the trailer for Matrix 4 looks really good. I hope the movie's good because I like that world, and I wish we could stay in that world a little bit more, find out some of the nuances in it. But I don't know. Yeah. The unknown is the most terrifying thing in the world. Thus, why death is so universally feared because no one really knows what is beyond life. Yeah, I mean, hell, what's the movie? Um, Flatliners. Flatliners is a perfect example of a horror movie literally based around people wanting to know what's on the other side of death, and everyone trying to get closer and closer to the edge of death, and then coming back, and they're bringing something back with them and stuff. Yeah, oh hell yeah. Oh yeah, it's the classic. There are things that man was not meant to know. Mm-mm-mm. Named by the namer. Mike says Terminator after the second movie should have ended. Yeah, and its fiction in Dark Horse Comics was more compelling than the latter movies. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Name by the neighbor. What's going on there? Mentions. Oh shit! Come on, come on. Travel down. There we go. You guys are so messed up. Yeah, true horror is the drive-through RPG's print-on-demand color profile. Bad, bad named, bad. Yeah, we all have complaints about it. It all gets the smudged artwork and printing and things like that, but it is what it is. TA says that storyline I developed was basically a hybrid of a number of stories, but was designed to be that all those stories by authors were from a distorted like static in radio transmissions of reality. Okay, all right, into their imaginations. And this story was what was really going on that their minds picked up on and distorted, giving their ideas for their own stories. Ooh. Um, this brings up, this kind of makes me think of a wow. I'm gonna reach back into the past here a little bit. There was an old collectible miniatures game called Dream Blade that was a miniatures combat game based on dreams that Watsy came up with. Was Magic the Gathering. It was a combination of Magic the Gathering and a miniatures collectible, and it lasted a short time. I still got a ton of Dreamblade figures out there, but that was at the time it was ahead of its time, and it kind of makes me think about the sci-fi element of like dreams and not knowing what's out there and manipulating them, but knowing that the more you manipulate them, the more harm you could bring to yourself and stuff. It was pretty cool game. TA says the null space was a combination of the Hellraiser cube and the black cube of Star Rigger by John DeChancy. Star Rigger. I can't remember that series. Mm. You guys bring up so much good stuff. I'm going to have a lot to listen to today. Vampanoid says there's an East versus West philosophy for horror movies. Okay. Western goes heavy with visuals and special effects, absolutely. East having that slow burn and buildup of dread. Eastern is seen as scarier since the monster we imagine is usually scarier than what we see on. Yeah, I won't put the whole thing. Usually what we see on screen. Sometimes the big reveal ends up ruining the horror element. I agree with you on that one. Uh, it's shock value, and a lot of it is like, in a Western culture, we love to have we want instant. We want everything now, instant now. Hurry up, give it to me now. And we don't want to know what's behind the horror is knowing something's behind the door and there's a deep shadow or something breathing heavy, the eyes, the smell. but we want to snatch the door open very quickly to know what it is. And we don't really like a lot of questions. We claim we do, but it's like, well, what about that? What I want to know the answer. I want to know the answer. And that dread, that building up of dread, is the thing that um, is the tension on purpose that makes us like bounce our feet and our heart starts to palpitate and we lean forward and we want to know what's going to happen next, and yeah, a lot of Eastern horror, Ringo and The Grudge and things like that. Those were like kind of brought it into the bigger flavor. Mike Gould says BattleTech does faster than light travel via jump ships, ships that fold space. The risk is if you fail to jump correctly, you could end up way off target in a star, displaced in time, or worse. There's well, hell, in Dune, the guild navigators, the navigators that bend and fold space to get each of the houses to other planets, they have to use the spice to allow them to open their awareness into the future so that they can predict where they go, that which is why they are the navigators. And that's kind of a cool concept as well. It's a little Dune has a bit of horror element to it, if not directly on the surface, a little bit behind the scenes. Yep. Ooh, Mike says it inspired him to add in right horror elements into the setting. Yep, into Thole. TA says the series was Star Rigger, Red Limit Freeway, and Paradox Alley. I have the latter two sitting on a shelf next to me now. What is funny is that the Gate Tech in Stargate was kind of ripped from it. Yeah, I mean, you listen. There's we all the sometimes the greatest form of flattery is theft, which we like to call an homage. A so and honestly, a lot of these ideas are independently spawned because we all think of the same thing. It would be the concept of an airplane, right? We all think of flying. Now we might think of it, the shape might be different, but somebody had to create it first. But it doesn't mean there weren't thousands and hundreds of thousands of other people on the planet that were like, I wonder if we could fly like birds. And the Wright brothers said, well, yeah, we got here first, right? So yeah, wormholes are that's a doorway to another place that lets us step through time and or space, and what's on the other side of that wormhole or Stargate or whatever you name, you know uh, paradox gate or something. That's very common. But anyway, guys, we are coming to the end. I see all of it. God damn it, restream. I'm trying to get these messages here. Um, oh yeah, the haunted BattleTech vehicle. Yep. Mm-mm-mm. TA mentions, and in universe, they were kind of going the direction of the gate builders, beckoning entities to come to them. Yep, just like in the Star Rigger, the builders were gathering sentient life into a culmination to contemplate higher things, like surviving the end of the universe. Yeah, in the Ringworld series, they would do things like that. The Ringworld series was the puppeteers were gathering humanity together to survive the explosion of the galactic core, and the radiation was going to sweep through known space, capital K, known space, and wipe out all life 50,000 years from now. And they were like, we need to move now because there's trillions upon trillions of people. And the human character was just like, why? And then he was like, well, yeah, that's right. Because if it's going to hit us 50,000 years from now, our our society might have moves gotten so big we can't get anywhere, so we need to get to the ring world. And so that's how the ring world, one of the plots of getting to the ring world. Anyway, Michael says one jump ship misjumped, so its crew went missing. Only splatters of blood were left behind. Maybe they should have put their seatbelts on. No, no, I get it. Yes, you get a misjump, and then of course you have to go through the derelict ship and all that kind of business. Oh, I love some derelict ships. TA says, gate builders beckoning entities to come to the. Oh shit! I hit the wrong thing. Mother, restream, please. Let me do this. There we go. Dead Man says the BattleTech novel Far Country included two jump ship mishaps separated by a few hundred years. Mm-mm-mm. That's cool. Anyway, guys, we are coming to the end here. Got to get out of here. Got to get out of this place. um, uh, next week, each day I'll be doing little small snippets, and then like the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be live streaming for the end of the Kickstarter for Level Up. So all next week will be Level Up stuff. Um, just because I'm just doing a small push for the end of it. Of course, full disclosure, I was one of the consultants for the exploration pillar of it, so I'm pretty happy about that, and I really haven't explored that into it. So, just to let you guys know, that's going to be coming up pretty soon and stuff. So yeah, Mm-mm. Seems like the issues. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. TS, it seems like internet issues are going on worldwide right now. I hope it sorts for your next show. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, to be to be completely honest with you, it's like I'm surprised I get a green light for my for the show because I'm broadcasting. I know it's not me, like my specific computer, but with me broadcasting over Facebook and Twitch and YouTube and being able to, you know, I don't know. I, fingers crossed. There's no problems, but sometimes when you look under the hood, you end up seeing something wrong. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah. Warp Eternal, Shiny and Chrome. Yeah, yeah, Shaytar. I'm a contributing writer and consultant for I think there was almost 30 of us, 25 of us on the Level Up Advanced 5th Edition Kickstarter that's going on now. I think it's gotten to, I don't know, where has it? Let's see how far it's gotten now. American dollars, $670,000, over 4,000 backers, 7 days to go. Days to go. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. But yeah, I'll be talking about that. I'll probably be doing an in-depth. There's a new character class called the Marshal, so I'll be doing an in-depth look at the new character class Marshal, and there's all that kind of stuff. Oh, you're like, wow, I didn't know that. I'm waiting for Level Up to get a full release because I couldn't get it on Kickstarter. Yeah, it's expensive on Kickstarter. Yeah, don't get that twisted. But yeah, I'm one of the I God, I hate saying I'm one of the developers. That's technically not the case, right? I'm not a I was a work for hire, so I came in and it was because Third Pillar Thursdays was a common thing on this channel, and I was suggested because I did some writing work for Path, um, Onyx Path Publishing, and then they suggested me to N World, and then N World got in touch with me, and they were like, "Hey, you do a lot of this stuff. Let's talk." And so that anyway, that's how it started. So it was somebody somebody knew somebody that knew somebody. It's basically what happened, and so I was part of the team. Now I didn't. We were separated into groups, so there were like the people doing the monsters, and there were people doing the classes, and then in those groups they split off into groups. So like a person was tasked with like the fighter, someone's tasked with the cleric, someone tasked with the sorcerer, and then you had to refer back to the survey results, and then they would do the playtest results, and the playtest results would come back, and then you rejiggered those, and then those got switched around the groups. So it was a complicated dance that we had to do. So it was like, here's our ideas, here's the survey results, modify the ideas, put the results back out. So it was a little bit thing. Yeah, thanks, Shadar. Yeah, that's still an awesome thing because I have a huge belief that the group will fix most popular 5e. Yeah, yeah. There's a listen. A lot of people don't like their cheese moved. People don't like to have their cheese moved at all, right? But the there's a lot of fixes that I think people will scratch their head and go at first glance go, man, I don't understand why they like for example, I think people are going to love the Monstrous Menagerie. Um, anyway, there's just a lot of detail. There's like the spellless ranger, the spellless marshal, the spellless. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of crap in it. So we'll go through it on the weekend. Um, let's see. TA says, odd that I had the time as a teen to make whole role playing systems that was a hybrid of Rollmaster and D&D. Hey, listen, we were kids. We all had a lot of time. Now I barely got time to sit on the shitter, so whatever. TA says, and we ran games in such a way that often people had to make motion and sound to portray their actions fast enough. We used to do a lot of crap. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for this being part of the show. You guys are brilliant and positive and energetic, so you make the show what it is. Um, I, unfortunately, my streaming services they cut out all my like visuals and my sound and my intros. I don't know what the hell's going on, so I'm gonna have to develop my own, or maybe go to Fiverr and hire somebody to make like a really cool intro. I still have my music, but they won't let me download it, which is weird as well. So yeah. So anyway, I see TA going off. He's just like, wow, I remember reminiscing. We need to have a whole show about just reminiscing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Got to head off to work for another 12 to 14 hour day. I roll. Um, anyway, peace, love, and harmony.